We are here live. I am on top of Pinnacle Mountain in Little Rock, Arkansas, and I am here with one of my best friends, Rachel Renee. And today, thank you for being here, Rachel.
For
Um,
having me.
Absolutely. So, those of you who have never joined before, what we do every Monday is we come together and we talk about some type of leadership, life issue that pertains to mostly us as women. And we are looking to have powerful conversations that unlock and empower women to get in position for the things that they really want to do in life. So, without further ado, today's topic is advocacy, self advocacy, how every piece of you matters and standing up for yourself the best way that you can. So, I brought Rachel on because this is a topic that we, in our personal friendship, have dealt with a lot, have talked about a lot. And I knew she would have a lot to say and bring to the table today. So, before we dive into that, Rachel, why don't you let everyone know a little bit about who you are and what you do.
All right. Well, thanks again for having me. And
Absolutely.
so, a little bit about me. I am a mom of a college graduate. That's one of my proudest accomplishments. Shout out to Andrew. And I'm also a book publisher. I help people write, edit, and self publish books. I've been doing that for over 15 years now. And I love it. I love helping people bring their stories to life and
Absolutely.
it really lights me up, and I love how stories connect people. Um,
She has published both of my books.
yes. And outside of that, I also have an extensive career in management, client operations management, training management. I love mentoring people in their careers and their jobs, helping them get to the next level. That's what I love most about
Mhm.
management.
Yeah. So, yeah, Rachel has been in various management positions, um, dealing with people, not only dealing with people in management, but in business. And then just the idea of when we talk about leadership, we're not just talking about leadership from corporate positions and management roles, but we consider everybody to be a leader, right? Because you're leading yourself. And so, that's really the heart of Mosaic Life, which is my channel. And Leading Through the Cracks is about how can we show up in life well and what can we do to lead ourselves better. So, Rachel, this whole issue of self-advocacy, um, what what are some of your initial thoughts about the importance of self-advocacy?
So, well, the main thing is really it's a way of standing up for yourself. Um,
Mhm.
Not allowing yourself to be a doormat in your own life. That's something that I had to learn in several different areas, and I know we'll get more into that. But it's about standing up for your own personal values and for who you are. Um, and it's just really empowering yourself to create the life that you want, and not to just take whatever's handed to you, but to craft your life in a way that really works for you.
Yes, absolutely. And I know I sometimes as your friend, I am always challenging and pushing and advocating for you to advocate for yourself because that is one of my big I don't know, life message maybe. I don't know, but I know that I've been in a lot of situations where um, my life was strained and stretched to the point where I did not have the same capacity that I had previously. And when that happens, adjustments have to be made. And sometimes, especially if we are in official leadership roles or moms or, running businesses, running organizations, volunteering all the time, just always giving out, always serving, always pouring out, it can be challenging to accept the fact that capacity is different at certain times. And so that is definitely one of the things that I um, am passionate about helping not only women, but women really lean into idea that your wellness and your sanity, your wholeness is just as important as it is um, with everyone else.
You have certainly helped me in a major way in that area, especially when it comes to my self-care.
Yeah, being able to advocate for yourself in your personal life is it's really critical. And sometimes when we are in leadership roles, um, or we're involved in so much, our personal life takes the hit. And I'm always encouraging Rachel, as she said, and other people in my life really to make sure that you are pausing and kind of doing check-ins to to see what it is that you need and make sure you're giving yourself actually what it is that you need. And so learning how not only giving yourself what you need, but before you can even give yourself what you need, you have to know what you need. And sometimes we don't know because we're moving so fast and we're moving from checklist to checklist to checklist and item and item and item and this deadline and this project and this kid needs this and this person needs this, and there's not often a lot of time to just look internally and say, what do I need? What do I need in my spirit? What do I need in my body right now? What do I need in my mind? And that's a huge part of advocating for yourself is actually knowing and recognizing that you need something to shift. Sometimes life hits you really fast, right? And you aren't able to immediately make the adjustments that you might need to make. Like for example, I was caretaking for my dad when he was on hospice care, and I remember um he I was not eating. Like, I literally was not eating food for days and days and days and days, and there was a particular stretch of 10 days where I know that I didn't eat, and I was constantly back and forth to the hospital, making sure my mom had what she needed, making sure I was bringing stuff to the hospital, making sure everything around me was still functioning and still going the way it needed to, but not making sure that I had what I needed because it felt impossible. It felt like an impossible task to do that. And that's in that situation, I always go back to it because um at the end of the day, I was like depleted, just down, just can't function. And that's an extreme example, but it's something that I always go back to because it reminds me of how I felt in that moment. And I don't honestly, looking back at it, I'm not exactly sure what I could have done differently in that moment because again, that was an extreme situation. But when we think about what happens on our day to day, when it's not someone is not maybe on their deathbed, or that deadline is not going to break us if we push it back a day. Like things like that, the things that we could make tiny shifts in doing. That's those are the things that I encouraging women to do, and just like evaluate, reevaluate, analyze how are you showing up in life, what are the patterns that you're using to show up, and are they patterns of burnout, or are they patterns of health and wellness and true productivity?
Right. And another thing that I'm hearing too, do you have patterns of thinking that everyone else's needs are more important than your own?
Mm.
That everyone else's requests are more important than your personal. And that's something that is really important to me. And now that I'm, more experienced, more advanced in years, it's something I'm hoping to hand down to even younger people in the
Yeah.
workplace. Being able to stand up and advocate for yourself. I've had some experiences with leadership where, it could be intimidating to stand up to the person who is signing your paycheck. But it was personally important for me to stand up for my values. Like, for example, early in my career, I was in my 20s, I had a manager ask me to basically falsify documents that my name was going to be on. And I said no. I cannot do that. And I was like, I was a lowly person in the company. I was not in management yet, but I was like, I can't. Like, my heart is beating fast. And I'm like, I'm going to actually tell this man no. And I told him no. And he looked like he was in shock and awe, but I wasn't disciplined for it. Nothing bad came out of it. When I did want to become part of that management team, I was questioned about that, but I felt good knowing I stood up for my values and my name was not put on something that I personally couldn't endure. So,
Absolutely. Yes. That's I love that example because sometimes I don't know if we often think of that as advocating for ourselves, but it really is making sure that the actions that you're taking, especially like in a work setting like that, um, or even in life in general, are the decisions that you're making and or that someone is asking you to make are aligned with who you are, your values, and they help you to stay in integrity.
just hope that someone could be encouraged to find their voice, stand up for themselves, to advocate for themselves in whatever area it is, whether it's their personal relationships or in corporate. There's another situation. I was new to a company. I was in training and I was paired with someone who was supposed to like coach me in the job, like just
Mhm.
starting out, just starting to take the actions on my own. And this person was supposed to shadow me and coach me, nitpicking everything I did. They weren't really providing any valuable feedback. They're just like, no, that's wrong. That's wrong. Don't say that. If somebody's constantly hammering you like that, it's a hit to your confidence. And then I'm just like, okay, what am I supposed to do if I'm doing everything incorrectly?
Mhm.
So at a point during our session, whoever I was talking to, I put them on hold and I just turned to the person. I said, what am I supposed to be doing? Like, you're not going to just keep doing this and not giving valuable actual information that I and they didn't even have the answer. They had to go find the answer from somewhere else. So I made a decision at the end of that day. Went to the people who were over the training and I said, do not pair me with that person again. This was a terrible experience. I don't even know what I'm doing anymore. Please don't. And I took it a step further. I said, just because someone is knowledgeable in their job, it doesn't mean they're qualified to coach other people or train
That
because I didn't
yes,
want anyone else to have that experience. As
absolutely.
a result, they changed the way they did that. Like the following year, they made sure that the people in that supporting role knew what was expected of them. The people in the supporting role are also evaluated, and they did not invite that person back to support anyone. Now, very so it's
That's awesome.
when you stand up for yourself, you actually make change for others, valuable changes for others.
Yes, yes, I love that. I love that so much. It's like your advocacy of yourself created space. It actually changed the policy, the procedure, the way of doing something that now impacts people coming behind you, which is amazing and it's powerful. And I don't think that sometimes we don't realize that and think about it because it can be hard sometimes to make those requests on your behalf, but you because we are leaders, like everything that we do has a ripple effect, whether it's to the negative or the positive. And it's our choice of how our actions are going to show up and make changes in situations. So thank you for sharing that. That's awesome. Yeah. Yeah. As you were talking, I was thinking about some situations that I have been in, and one of them is you guys, I was working, as a therapist, um, at one of the most difficult jobs that I've had was as an intensive in-home therapist, meaning I was doing all of my therapy sessions in people's homes. So I was going into their homes, I was doing, marital sessions, family sessions, child sessions, and these were all for families that were, the child was at risk for out of home placement. So that means their houses were in chaos and really it was tough. It was a tough situation, and we had to drive, to their houses. And this one particular day, my therapy partner and I were on our way to the our kids' house. We were going to take them to the park and do our session outside, and they were teenage girls, 2 sisters, and they were like, teenage girls, emotional, and so they had forgotten something at the house that they really wanted us to see during session, so we had to turn around. So when we turn around and go back to the house, we are in a neighborhood that we're not fully familiar with. We go through going down the road, go through an intersection and get hit. So somebody hits us on our back bumper. Our car spins 3 times, and we ran headfirst into a house with 2 with 2 teenagers in the car, so the 4 of us in the car. At that time, fortunately, no one was hurt, um, but I did go to the hospital, and I ended up how when you're in an accident, a lot of times you don't feel anything until much later. So about a week and a half to 2 weeks later is when I was just in so much pain and I couldn't move, I couldn't drive, it was difficult, and my job was dependent on driving because 'cause I'm driving to their homes, and I worked for a mental health place. So mental health is a great concern, right? But my mental health was not of concern because it was, you need to keep going. You have got to go at this pace. You have got to do this. You've got to get these hours in. You've got to see these families. You've got, all these things. And so I had to make a choice at that time. And it was a really, really, really difficult choice because I was also a full time student and there was just a lot going on in my life. And I chose to leave that job because they were not willing to work with me as much as I needed them to work with. Like the little accommodations that they were giving me were not really accommodations at all. It was just kind of like placating me. And so I decided to leave that job. And I really call that my forced pause because not only did I leave the job, but I was laid flat on my back. I was wearing a neck brace. I was in a lot of pain, and it was during that season, that few months that I was on physical therapy and all these things that I was having to do to recover. That is when I really began to get the message about the power of the pause, which is the name of my next book. But it is called, yeah, it's called The Power of the Pause. And it tells the story in detail and all the lessons that I learned because I was forced to pause. I was forced, to really reflect on not only my healing, my physical healing, but am I actually doing the things in life that align with who I'm called to be, what I'm called to be doing. Just because the things I'm doing are good, does that mean that they are the best thing that is for me in this season? Like, because nothing that I was doing was bad. Like, all of it was good. All the things were good, but I was living it such a way. The pace that I was going was so fast. There was no wiggle room. I was eating crap. I didn't have time to work out. I was pouring into everyone else's family and life but my own. And it just was not sustainable. And so I crashed into a brick wall, literally. I had a literal brick wall moment. And that is when this message really started to grow in me and become passionate about helping people understand the importance of pausing and really prioritizing your wellness.
That
Uh,
that's just so amazing. Like, what if you hadn't made that decision? Like, there's so many things that were birthed in your life as a
mhm.
result of you making that decision to take care of yourself. And if you hadn't have made that decision, say if you continued trying to keep up with that pace, it would have affected your health, would have continued to affect your health and your mental well-being. And guess what? If you eventually left the job anyway, they're just going to replace you. They're going to move. Their business is going to continue
Absolutely.
whether you're there or not. So it's like sometimes we like I said, we esteem other people's needs or organizations' needs higher than our own. But at
Mhm.
the end of the day, we're replaceable in those
Mhm.
organizations. We're not replaceable in our own lives though.
Mm-mm, absolutely not. And I was working my butt off for someone else's vision. Now, I'm not saying their vision wasn't good. I love their vision. Anything where you're pouring into families and helping families stay together, I'm about it. I love it. But I have a vision too. I have purpose too. And at that time in my life, I wasn't able to address any of it. And now, I mean, I still am in a full-time job right now, but I am doing the things I love as well. I am pouring into the things that I know I'm called to do, writing the books, creating the programs, doing the membership class, all the things that bring me life, but not only bring me life, help me facilitate healing in other people, which is what I'm called to do. Now I can do it because there's more balance in my life. And I made that decision to advocate for myself. Like, no, this is what I need. And you know what, you guys? People tried to talk me out of it. Everybody tried to talk me out of leaving that job. It was like, what about this? How are you going to make money? What about your counseling hours? Because I was in process of obtaining my hours to become an LPC. So it was like, what about all these hours that you've gained? You're going to lose the hours. And you know how hard it is to get, to get these hours. And I had to sit there like, do you guys know that I can barely move? Like, do you actually know what I'm saying? Like, I can't move. My everything hurt. I remember even back then I had locks. At that time, I cut my locks because I couldn't stand to have anything touching me. Like I didn't want to. You remember that? Yeah. And I was sad that I had to cut my locks, but I had to cut my locks to make myself feel better because I couldn't have anything touching me. I couldn't wear a bra. I didn't want to wear I just that's how sensitive the nerve damage was. And people are like, "Oh no, you can do it. You can sit here and have these counseling sessions with these very intense families." Like, "No, I can't. I couldn't even turn my head. I can't but people were so afraid for me. I remember my supervisor saying to me, "Oh, you're brave. You're brave for doing this." And I never will forget that conversation because I was like, it shouldn't be considered brave to prioritize my wellness. Like this should not be considered brave, especially from a mental health company. But from anywhere, but especially from a mental health company, it shouldn't be considered brave to recognize that my health, my mental wellness, my emotional stability is at risk because I'm going at this pace.
Right. I mean, this is so important. It's like sometimes advocating for yourself looks like you're going against the grain of what everyone else is saying to you.
Mhm,
And it's still important to be grounded in what do I really need right now? Or, like you said, they didn't know the pain that
mhm,
you felt, all this that was going on in their body. They didn't know. They couldn't feel that. So they have
mhm,
their set of concerns, but you have your real set of concerns that are actually affecting your life on a day to day basis that maybe they didn't know. And again, they meant well. They weren't
mhm.
doing anything wrong, but you know best what you need for yourself. And
Yeah.
it reminds me of something that happened in my personal life. So I was I was about to go through a divorce. I've been married twice, y'all. My first marriage, I did a lot of dumb things. I was young. I was silly. I was irresponsible. My second marriage, I was trying to do things the right way. And from the outside looking in, people thought I had a great marriage. So when it was coming to an end, there were people that they were invested. They didn't want it to end. They're like, no, guys, you have to work this out. And again, they meant well, right? But they didn't know what I was going through behind closed doors. They didn't know what I was going through personally that nobody saw because it wasn't their business, you know? So there was a couple that they really wanted to help and they wanted me to set up this dinner where me and my husband would come and they would try to reason with him. And they
Mhm,
were so excited about this opportunity to help us in this way. And I'm just like, I said, no, I'm not going to do that. And they couldn't understand why I wouldn't go through with it. Like I'd already done counseling. I'd already done the things and I already knew how it was going to turn out. It was going to turn out as we were going to come there. We were going to have a nice dinner. He was going to play nice and then we would leave and I would get the backlash of him feeling embarrassed that I brought him into that situation. I knew how it was going to unfold. I'm like, this is not going to change anything. So I understand you guys, your hearts are made of gold. You are pure, your intentions are pure, but you simply don't know what I deal with when I go home. And I'm not about to serve myself up for this. Like sometimes you just got to decide, hey, I'm not going to sacrifice myself so someone else can feel better about themselves. This is not going to work. So, what? But no, thank you.
Yes, 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 yes. That you are not going to sacrifice yourself so someone else feels better. I'm not. I'm not. And you guys are not either. We are not doing that. We're not doing that. And it's funny because, when I was talking about the people not wanting me to stop my licensure hours, it was like, hey, because they knew I had this big vision. And in that vision, of having this like wellness center, I needed to get the funding that I'm looking for. I need an LPC to be on there, right? I need an LPC. And so they're like, how can you stop doing this when you have this huge vision that we know is needed in the world, and you need an LPC, and you're going to be an LPC, but now you're stopping that process? Number one, God knows that I need an LPC to bring about the wellness center and the creative arts center that I want to bring into the earth, right? He knows that I need that. Two, I'm not the only LPC in existence in the world. Like, if there's one thing that Nicole knows how to do, is I know how to connect with people, build relationship, and collaborate. I don't mean to toot my own horn, people, but I am good at that. I am good at doing that. So when the time comes for me to need an LPC and I'm not one, I will have plenty to have. I had there was one person in particular in my life who reminded me of that. His name is Chad. And he was like, Nicole, you got this. It does not matter whether you get the LPC or not get the LPC. That has no bearing on whether you bring this wellness creative arts center into the earth. It doesn't matter. There's plenty of LPCs in the world, and many of them are your friends. So it doesn't matter. But that little thing is the one thing that people were like, I can't believe you would make this choice. And I'm like, I can't believe that you would want me to go to work in pain, constant pain. And not only constant pain for me, but we also have to think about, if you're not well, like physically well, emotionally well, um, the people that you're trying to show up for are not getting the best of you. Like my families, I love my families. I consider those kids my kids. Like I put my all into my work. When I'm counseling, when I'm coaching, you become mine. Like, I love you. And it was very, very, they were the reasons that it was so difficult to leave that job, because there were tears and, oh no, she's leaving and all of that. And I understood that because I felt that in my heart as well. But what I also want for them is someone who can show up and be the best advocate for them possible. And that was not me at that time. I just couldn't do it. So sometimes we also have to think about, are we forcing ourselves to stay in situations to help people, but we may not even be in position or in the having the capacity to help them in the best way that they need at the time as well.
And what I'm also hearing and what you're sharing is we have creativity. So there's
Mhm.
more than one way to accomplish something. That's what you're saying.
Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely.
yeah, so this one path that you were taking for the LPC, maybe that didn't work out, but that's not the only path available. We have
Hmm.
options. So that's another beautiful thing to consider when thinking about advocating for ourselves, is that we have options. And if it doesn't seem like the options are readily available, we can create some options.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I mean, we are we are creative individuals, right? And a lot of time I hear people say, I'm not creative, I don't have any creative bone in my body, and what they're really saying is, I don't paint, or I don't play music, or I don't sing. Like that's typically what people are meaning when they say they're not creative, but that is just one facet of creativity. We are creative beings created in the image of the creator, who is the greatest creator there is. So there's no way that we don't have creative capacity within us, in our creative thinking, in our strategies that we come up with, all of these things that we can bring to the table to change our situations at any given point in time. And advocacy really is, whether you're advocating for yourself or someone else, it really does take creativity to do that. Like you have to not only think out of the box, you kind of have to smash the box. Like there is no box. It's limitless, limitless opportunity, limitless thinking. There's no box. Yeah.
Absolutely. And this is another place to consider your circle.
Come on, Rachel.
because
Come on, bring it.
because sometimes you can be talking to people who are not smashing the box. They're trying to stay squarely perfectly fitting inside that box, and they're content to live that way. So that's when you need to look to those people who are going to think more creatively. When you're processing some of these, you're trying to come up with these new pathways, these new options.
Yeah.
Sometimes you got to consider who you're talking to, because they're going to keep giving you that inside the box response.
Yeah.
And that may not be what you need at that time. If you don't have smash the box people in your circle, to
Smash the
Dr.
box.
Nicole, because he will help you
Smash
obliterate
it.
that.
Yes, I will. Yes, I will. DM me. But yes, it's so true. Like we have got we have to smash the box. And it's one of the thing that I want to just reiterate about self-advocacy is what you were saying, Rachel. Your circle, knowing your circle and creating boundaries, establishing boundaries for yourself is a part of self-advocacy. Like everybody does not get to speak into your life. Everybody does not get to have an opinion on what you're doing and how you're doing it. And you have to stand up for yourself to be able to say, no, this is not, I don't receive that information, or to zip your lips and not spout it off to everybody. Like, because once you put it out there, then people feel obliged that they just have the ability to speak on everything. And when they don't necessarily. So that's another part of self advocacy is really being able to monitor your circles and have um, an established set of boundaries for yourself. Not walls, but boundaries. That's a whole nother conversation. Maybe I'll bring Rachel back and we can talk about boundaries, which is another huge part of things that we're always talking about together. But this is a thing, like it's very important, and that's an important part of taking care of yourself. Advocating for yourself is knowing your circle and protecting your boundaries. I know we could go on and on about this forever, and I really appreciate everyone for joining in. I saw a few little comments throughout. I appreciate the feedback. Um, Thank you to my sister, who is on here and saying that she wished that she could have helped me more. But at that time, when I was talking about my dad, my sister lived out of town at that time. But I know she was with me in spirit and helped in many other ways. So thank you, Tiffany, for that. And as we start to kind of wrap up the conversation a little bit, Rachel, I wanted to give you an opportunity to just one, give us any parting words that you want to speak about self advocacy, but then also if you could just share if you have anything that you're offering or that how people can stay connected to you. Because I didn't say this in the beginning, but I call Rachel the caretaker of stories because she has such a way of helping people bring their stories to life. So, she's a book publisher for those of you that were not on in the beginning, but she's a book publisher and she has such a heart and passion for people to be able to tell their stories. So, if that's some, look, I'm telling your stuff that you go ahead, you say whatever you need to say, but
You're the caretaker of Rachel.
yes.
Yes, Tiffany, talk to me, please. Um, so I want to share this encouragement around self advocacy, because I've been in like some anxiety inducing situations where I knew I needed to advocate for myself. And it required oftentimes me having to have some really difficult conversations with people. So
Mm,
I want to encourage you to still do it. I know it's hard. If you feel that anxiety, if you're in a situation and you're like, oh my gosh, I hate this, I can't stand this. If you're waking up and dreading having to go to work or dreading to have to talk to a certain person or deal with a certain person, that's a sign that some advocacy is needed for yourself and your life. And if you're finding that you're just kind of overwhelmed and you don't know how to handle it, Dr. Nicole, there, or right there. She will help you navigate through that thing. Like you don't have to walk through these things alone. I have had her as my bestie for over 10 years now. So anytime I've been in a jam like that and I wasn't quite sure how to handle it or if it was even okay to take the approach that I was taking, she was there to help reassure me, yes, it's okay. Do it. Do that for yourself. Sometimes you need people like that in your life. If you don't have that, reach out to Dr. Nicole. I'm so serious. So, in terms of me being a caretaker of stories, I absolutely love helping people tell their stories. I weep over people's stories. Like, there's so many times someone has reached out to me for help and they share their story with me. A lot of times people have said it was the first time they were sharing their story with anyone. That is so humbling. I could cry right now. Like,
Mm.
it's so humbling. It's such an honor to be able to assist people in getting those precious, intimate stories out. And like I said, I weep over those stories because these are people's lived experiences. They've gone through tough, challenging things. They've come out on the other side and now they're creating something beautiful out of it. That's amazing. So, if you need help with that, I'm here for you. If you have any questions, I'm here on Substack. I'm very new, so you won't see a whole lot of content from me. I'm very new to Substack, but please feel free to reach out to me here. I would love to talk to you.
Thank you, Rachel. I appreciate it. And I second that. She's amazing to work with. She will be publishing The Power of the Pause that's coming soon. And I appreciate your help and assistance with that. And for those of you who are new to me, again, my name is Nicole. My Substack is Mosaic Life, and you are listening to Leading from the Cracks Real Stories, Whole Women, Transformative Leadership, where we have powerful stories every Monday, helping to empower us to step into position for purpose, being healed and whole, and bringing our whole selves to the table in a way that does not compromise our wellness. So I hope you'll tune in. We'll be back again next Monday. We're going to be talking to my dear friend Rada Dalal, and we're going to be talking about soft life, the soft life, and what that actually means, and how can we get a piece of that soft life, right? So, come on back next Monday. I would love to have you. Thank you guys for being here. Thank you, Netta, for being here. Appreciate it so much. And we will see you next Monday. Bye.